So what does anxiety, for people who don't know, what does that look like on a daily basis?
It's almost like a sense of being overwhelmed or like not knowing what to expect. Like I'll tell you, like from my experience of walking in that, like it wasn't like every day like it would happen. It was almost like certain moments or things would flare up. You know what I mean? Like usually, like when I first started really dealing with the panic attacks and stuff was whenever I was working in banking. So I would literally be mid conversation with a customer, and it could literally be something so minuscule that I could usually handle, but because maybe I didn't get enough sleep that night, or maybe I was overthinking something else, that focus on that topic just I couldn't do it without it like making me almost like again heat up and then just feel too overwhelmed to where I needed to take a moment and just get space.
So I hate this word, trigger.
Trigger.
But what would
trigger me?
What would trigger you into?
Honestly, anything. It wasn't just like one specific thing. I think that's something that can be misconstrued. Like it's not just one little thing or something that someone could say that's specific. It was more just like in those moments. Like if I've already had a long day and then this and this happens where I'm like tasked to do certain things or I feel like I can't accomplish it. A lot of it's self. It's a lot of self-doubt. Like I'm like, oh, I can't do this. There's no way I'm going to get through it. And then that's when my heart is starting to race. That's when I'm getting nervous. That's when I guess the word I would say is like, that's when I would wig out.
Okay.
So,
is there a specific moment when this started for you that stands out, or was it kind of a gradual building up?
So I would say it was more gradual because there was a break point. So like what started the whole thing, and I shared it, was when I get to my senior year of college and I had a sense of like not knowing what my next move was going to be. All the way up to that point, I had known what this year was going to look like, what the next year was going to look like. Again, I also ran track and cross country in college. So like I was competing. I had an outlet to let things out. I get injured. So like I lose my ability to let things out. And because of that, it made me doubt who I am as a person and doubt self. So I'm like having meetings with my former boss and sitting with him and telling him, hey, like, I don't know, like, I'm lost. And, you know, the one thing I would say about him, he was a man of God too, and he'd be like, are you seeking Jesus in these moments? And I would say, yeah.
Were you?
No, I wasn't.
Right.
Because I was still, you know, when you're in college, there's so much opportunity to just live within the world. So I was more caught up into the social aspect and, like, wanting people to like me, wanting to feel, like, equal, when instead I should have looked at it like, nah, like, my relationship with God is the relationship that I need to focus on. And because I wasn't, I was failing.
And then you don't have value. You don't have the value that Jesus put on you.
Exactly.
Because your value is in your social, your sports, in life.
Yeah.
Because you're not focused on
exactly.
The king.
Training and competing was God. Doing that sport was God to me in that time of life. Making sure I advance to the next level in my paces and my races. That's what I focused on. Don't get me wrong. Like, was I still coming to church? When I got a car, I started coming back. But like, was I completely in? No, I was going through the motions. And that's, you know, that was that season of life for sure where, you know, I was willing to just see what the next move was going to be.
Do you think that plays a role because you know you're not where you need to be?
Oh, 100%.
So that absolutely played a role.
But because
in the anxiety.
But because of that, and not doing what I was supposed to, of course, the implications of stress, because you know that you're not in the position that you're supposed to be, because God's called you to be greater than where you're allowing yourself to sit, and you're limiting almost like you're limiting the, like I wouldn't say expectation, but you're limiting your chance of growing to be better.
Yeah.
And because of that, I wasn't allowing myself to open up and grow in the path I was supposed to.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So what do you think people misunderstand, or what's a misconception about, especially being so young and having anxiety? Hey guys, help us grow the kingdom of God. Go to mkdotalk.com, buy some swag, cool shirt, picture of this guy.
Hey.
We just want to get the word of the Lord out there, and we need your help doing it. And you should have something cool to wear while you help.
We're building community.
Of followers.
That's Josh.
This is Andy.
Hi.
Bye.
I think like from the perspective of other people, like I've gotten a lot of people thinking that like it's got to be something else. It's never anxiety. I think a lot of people think that that's like a made up thing, almost like, oh, that's just a cop out for just not being able to do something or wanting to go through with something. Like they thought I was just having a tantrum or just thought I was like not. Like, I guess I need to reword that better. I guess the way to answer that is like they thought I was using that as an excuse for the actual issue. I just knocked that.
You just
over.
broke her stuff, dude.
I know. I'm just breaking things. How can I word that better?
Were there any lies you were believing from Satan, either about yourself or about God? Because it's always like in our darkest moments, we don't always feel the presence of the Lord.
Right.
So it's like he's abandoned you. You're on your own now.
That's pretty much what it was. I felt like I was by myself and that no one else could understand me or understand what I was going through. And also made me feel less of worth, like never really feeling good enough. Like for the longest time I was a middle child, so like there's always that too.
I have middle child stuff, yeah.
So like trying to compete with my siblings or like even having the dysfunction in my home too. So like that created a balance there too. I think there was early on signs of anxiety for me, but I didn't know.
That was going to be my next question. So if this starts manifesting to you, or at least to you in college, because now you don't have a clear path forward of what life looks like.
Exactly.
There was no signs that you look back that came from your childhood?
Oh, I mean, most definitely.
Because you said it was dysfunctional?
Because I'll tell you this too, and I've opened up about this. I didn't grow up in a household with faith. It wasn't. Like, my dad is from Africa. Like, he grew up Muslim. But, like, when my dad came to this country, like, you know what I mean, he just really dedicated his life to working. And, like, he's a mechanic. He's run his own business for the longest time. So, like, the perfection, I felt like there was a sense of strictness of having to do things the way he wanted it to. Because if not, then you weren't doing good enough. And I don't blame that on my dad. I blame that on self. Like, me thinking I had to be this way to
So he didn't make you feel less because you wasn't living up to his standards?
He wasn't doing anything to do that, but that happened to me. I did it to myself.
You put that burden
on me, thinking that because I wasn't meeting up to a certain par, that I wasn't what he expected in a son. So because of that, I always felt less. I always felt not good enough. You see what I mean? So like that could have started it too. Also thinking about it as well, like growing up in school, being one of the few minorities in school,
especially in this state.
And not like I never forget like being in 7th grade, and that's the first time I've ever heard someone being called the N-word. That's the first time I've ever heard that. You know what I mean? And being a child and not realizing that I'm different. I didn't know. Like as a kid, you don't think about those things. But because of that stress balled down onto me too. So like there'd be moments, for sure, I'd be like, I wouldn't want to go to school, or like, I wouldn't be able to focus in class because I was afraid of this kid doing something to me because he would say things to me in the hallway or like in the lunch line. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Of course, it built a fear, and it built like a substance to be used to it. You see what I'm saying? There was no realm of escape because I didn't have a relationship with God at that time either. So again, I thought I'm just dealing with this by myself because my dad would always be like, don't ever retaliate. Like don't put your hands on somebody else. Like if someone's threatening you, like just go like. Almost in the way he's pretty much telling me to turn the other cheek, but he's not telling me the way the scripture tells me to do it. You know what I mean? So it was different. Our family was given the choice to choose faith, and for the longest time, I was the only one who was choosing faith, who was walking in that. Now, some of you might know Shaquille, Shaq, my younger brother. He came in later, but there was a point in time where I was going through faith and being the only one and trying to carry that on my shoulders and praying for my family and being there. So that did. In a way, give me that stress all the way from there.
But before we move on, is your dad have faith now or no? Is it just still you and Shaquille?
So I mean, I've tried having conversations, and he says that he believes in God, but like, do I see him walking in a manner of faith? Again, I love my dad. Amazing dad. Love him. He's done a lot for me. So this is not me saying anything in a negative turn to not bring honor to him, but. No, I don't. There's not like a sense of like where I'm seeing. He watches Joel Osteen sometimes. I've seen that. Okay. He watches Joel Osteen. I could say that. But no, there's not a foundational thing where that's like a pivotal thing. That's
so. Important. This is on you and your brother's shoulders for your family at this point.
At this point, yeah, for sure.
Okay,
for sure.
So, the turning point. What role did Jesus actually play, or describe the role that you felt the Lord played? In when you start to get on the other side of this battle?
So I'll never forget like the specific moment. Like I was at my family's for Christmas, and this was like the one of the last times because they diagnosed me and they gave me Lexapro, so they put me on medication. So I was
So
taking.
they're drugging you up
They
early.
drugged me up pretty much,
'Kay.
and I will tell you like that was such a worst. That was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. Because again, it just felt like it was diluting who I was. But I remember sitting down, looking at my mom, and being like, I can't do this anymore.